In the dark, creatures crawl into the underworld. Afterlife, an abyss protects you. In the light, goddess of the sun brings you life. A deity, best it is her name. Come learn the ways of man. Become one with the sand. The fate is in your hands. It's time to fight. You will rise, not fall. Never lose hope on the ground. We are one for all. The truth will always conquer. Capture the earth, chasing your mark. Get like mystical formation. Turn on the walls, beat on the drums. Let us claim peace as war. In the dark, a river flows. The Nile is so exposed. The morning star is seen in our sight. In the light, find your desert altar and your shrine. Look for peace, defeat the enemy. Run to the obelisk, defend this legacy. Fly to your destiny. It's time to fight. You will rise, not fall. Never lose hope on the ground. We are one for all. The truth will always conquer. Capture the earth, chasing the mark. Get like mystical formation. Turn on the walls, beat on the drums. Let us claim peace. We rise, reach for the sky. Hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher. Conquer the ark. Get ready to fight for your life. We rise up. We are the kings, we are the queens. We are the gods, gods to solve this animation. Turn on the walls, making our mark. 'Cause we are the kings, we are the queens. Let's win this war.
Hello, 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 governors. Welcome to Osiris League Season 8 Playoff Semifinals. I'm your host, Plato Gaming, caster and content creator for Rise of the Kingdoms, and casting alongside me yet again is Dirty Dan. How you doing, man?
Doing good, brother. Super excited for this next match here. If it's anything like the last two matches that we have casted, we're in for a real treat here. So I'm very much looking forward to this match.
Yes, sir. We are now in the third knockout stage, the semifinals, where each team is in a win or go home scenario against each other, fighting for the crown of Osiris League champions. The second match that we're casting today will be in the realm of Anubis 489 from Kingdom 2489 versus 1EE8 from Kingdom 2098. 489 from the reigning realm are the reigning realm of Basset and Grand Prix champions and have been dominant to start this Osiris League playoff run, going undefeated and pretty much unchallenged thus far. However, they will be fighting against a major challenge today. 1E8 once again proving and showing the Rise of Kingdoms community that they are a team to respect and be afraid of, being ever so close to taking it all last season, making it to the realm of Anubis finals, where they eventually lost against 60GT. They are looking to make it back to the final so that they could finally prove once and for all that 1EE8 is the best team in Anubis. 489 versus 1EE8. Will 489 continue on their unchallenged championship routes, or will 1EE8 stop them in their tracks to pursue their own route to Osiris League glory? Dirty Dan, what do you think of this matchup? What are your initial thoughts here?
So my initial thoughts are going to be, okay, let's see how technical 489 can be, right? They are recent Grand Prix champions, which for those who are unfamiliar with Grand Prix, everyone has the same accounts or given a developer account. And um, it really comes down to strategy at that point, and then also kind of scouting and tactics and whatnot, kind of progress through those matches. So 489, I'm looking to be extremely technically sound when it comes to their timing, open, all the good things I kind of want. Another thing I'm going to be curious about is if they did their homework against 1EE8. 1EE8 being known as, especially in my eyes, as a favorite for provisions, usually amassing somewhere in the realm of 4,000 plus provisions, which can give you an arc score. But 1E8 has also been very good at fighting enemies who are a little bit bigger than them. We saw them upset 60MX a few weeks ago, and even took an arc away from them in that middle fight, with 60MX being so dominant in middle fights, particularly. So, again, probably very similar to last week with Wib and JST, total toss up for me. I really think that this is going to be an arc match for the.
Yeah, if it's going to be an arc match, that matches the level of arc matches that we've been seeing lately in Arc of Osiris, with that Wib and JST match, and recently that W34X versus 60AC, which we just casted at 13 UTC, which came down to provisions yet again. It's going to be an interesting match. I will say, though, 489, they literally have a Rise of Kingdoms documentary made about them, about how much they practice. So it's going to be a tough hill to climb for 1E8, which is why 489 is so favored. Although I've been told it's not exactly the full team from 489 in the Grand Prix that they have now. So we'll have to see if 1E8 can prove to be the upsets, can prove to be, one of the best, if not the best team in Anubis, which is what all of these teams are playing for. If we look at Anubis, the last four teams here are stacked. We got 60GT, GV77, 489, and 1E8, which we are casting both of these games. Chiskel and, of course, Brian Koo on the other cast. Anubis looks like this is going to be one to watch here. Because, this is literally the top of the top level, especially in Anubis with 489, their practice schedule. 1E8 being the provisioner gods, I would say, of Rise of Kingdoms. They pretty much put provisioning on the map, right? Where I feel like not that many people were provisioning, and then they sell 1E8, especially because in the beginning of their route, in the beginning of their group stage, they were in the middle of KVK, they're in the middle of Kingsland. They didn't have troops. What did they do? How'd they win? They won with provisions. So we will have to see. They have had weeks now to train back up. Perhaps they have their troops back. I'm not exactly too sure the KVK schedule, but they should be locked and loaded, ready to go against 489. And 489, we're talking about how they've literally been scot-free this whole playoff series, this whole Osiris League series. The closest game that I've seen is against their own kingdom in 89 BC. So 489... are they going to be the sharpest tool in the shed? Are they going to be still super practiced? We will have to see in this match as we get into game here. Do you have anything to add on top of that, Denny Dan?
I think it just
this match.
Something that we've touched on in past matches too, with again, kind of gliding through group stages and all of Osiris League. At that, I don't care how much experience you have. There is this thing where when you get punched in the mouth, how are you going to respond? So I'm very curious if 1EE8 comes out with something, startles 489 a little bit, and 489 is just not quite able to get their footing underneath them because they've had so many matches. So it's really going to be kind of, we're kind of getting this David versus Goliath sense, but we're also getting, a team in 1EE8 who's super well-tuned, well-refined. They've played some really tough matches right now, some nice upsets. And then you have 489 on the other side where they're kind of just, it's been the easy route. So that narrative might come into play a little bit. That is definitely something I'm going to be looking out.
It is definitely something to look out for. Although I'm sure 489 has had some practices, being the reigning Grand Prix champions. We saw in the documentary that the 489 team would literally meet up in person, have practices pretty much daily. Like, that documentary was probably one of the best things that I've watched in terms of a Rise of Kingdoms documentary, with the interviews that they did there. So I definitely see them as a favorite, but we have to keep in mind the different factors that 1EA comes to the table. And honestly, whenever you go into a matchup, people always look down on 1EA in terms of them not being a favorite. They'd upset GV77 last year. They, had a good series against 60GT, but eventually losing in that finals. We'll have to see if they can make it back to the finals, or if 489 will be able to, beat and defeat the winners of 60GT and GV77 going on in the other match. Do we expect anything interesting with these openings, Dirty Dan?
I would not be surprised if Evil Empire throws something wacky in here. They're always known to kind of be a little innovative, I want to say, and kind of creating some schemes or strategies that might be a little bit different. And again, especially with being this round of Osiris League getting so much footage on people, I would not be surprised if 1E8 comes out and tries something a little bit different here.
I will say, I think I saw a couple 1EA members that are not VIP 18. So that is a pretty big disadvantage. 30,000 troops not in your march could potentially mean, potential struggles in mid-fights. We'll have to see if that potential structures not being completely filled, missing 30k. We'll have to see if that'll be a factor. As we start to see these sentries coming out from 489, they're pretty standard, but they definitely know that 1E8 likes going down this middle path. What we saw last season is 1E8 would send a whole murder ball down this middle path, take all these outposts, and then take a Desert Ultra from behind or something. I'm not too sure if they'll do the same thing, but
those innovative plays that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And one thing to key in here too, there's one sentry already on their back lines for 1E8 looking for provisions already.
Wow, the provisioner sentry right here making life easier for their gatherers. We've seen that if you go building focus and you go gathering focus, there is a potential route to victory. JST being so close to beating WIB, which won and got 4 arcs. So potentially a similar route 1E8 might take here, just trying to defend their structures as much as possible, as we see 1E8 having full vision of 489 in this Shrine of War area, just seeing the marches walking through, knowing how many marches are walking to the Desert Altar. They might potentially also see the Sky Altar marches here, and indeed they do. So they have some pretty decent vision here, probably some people to call out what they see. And I believe that it'll be a similar situation for, they definitely see all the marches coming to the Sky Altar on the top side here. For 489. Dan, we didn't talk about predictions. Who do you think would win this match off of, I guess, your intuition?
It's a long shot. I understand this, but I've been riding 1E8 all season. I just love what they've been doing, man. I've been calling out Provision Game the entire time, so I'm gonna go with the underdogs here. Gotta love to see a nice underdog story. I'm gonna be rooting for 1E here.
That would be probably one of the biggest upsets of recent Rise of Kingdoms history. Grand Prix champions falling in the semifinals of Osiris League. For those that don't know, the Grand Prix is like the top of Osiris League. Last season, it was 2 servers. It wasn't even only the international server, which we all play on. It was also the Chinese server, the top of the top teams in the Chinese server, top of the top teams in the international server, fighting against each other, and 489 ended up on top. So, which is why they are so favored in this matchup. And we could start to see the initial fights here in this outer lane. Both teams being very respectful against each other. Usually you just see just clashes instantly, but both of these teams saying, we respect you guys, you know, we'll posture in front of this desert altar. We'll make sure that all of our troops here are ready to fight for this desert altar. You could see the iconic levels of some of these marches with the cap, with a unit cap here. A lot of these iconics here being super high for 489. We don't, some of these marches for 1E8 not being iconicized, just pointing out potential differences in equipment for this fight. As you start to see 489 swooping underneath the desert altar in this bottom side and this top side, they have that desert altar pretty much under wrap. We'll keep our eyes in this bottom side desert altar as we see the murder ball starting to commence here. And it does look like 1E8 kind of playing around this desert altar, where some of these marches from 489 dancing around the desert altar, perhaps having delayed DPS here. But it does look like 489 having position around this desert altar. They have the potential to get first occupation, and they were able to get inside. So huge play by 489 to get inside of this desert altar. They don't have a garrison in there yet.
They did. One E8 sniped the garrison from out of the field.
Okay.
So I think 489 is going to be without a garrison on this one.
That's a big play too, because if they had a garrison, it would be really tough. But Pokebing, as much as I love him as an open field commander, not really the best garrison in Rise of Kingdoms. As we start to see this desert altar getting chipped down slowly but surely by 1E8, and 489 still filling the Pokebing, and they also cleared the field. So, you know, that open field advantage that we were talking about with the gear, with the iconic levels rather, perhaps making a difference with the murder ball here. You could see the dots, barely any red dots. I do like though that they are all swarming the structure at the same time, but I think it won't be enough to take back this desert altar.
It's going to be a little painful getting ready for this mid fight. We're just under around a minute away from people starting to wanting to rotate in, but they're now going to have to go in and prioritize this desert altar and get some home points back, as the whole bottom side of the map swinging for 489.
Yeah, 489 coming out to play with these opening structure captures. Although they are now sad facing on these cities here. Even the full marches are sad facing, which is crazy. A full healthy march just going straight into the city. They might actually zero the city by accident, but yeah, they are 100%, you know, showing that, you know, timers matter. They have a minute left on this desert altar, but they're like, hey, this first occupation points, we're pretty confident that we could take it. And even if we don't take it, we're denying slowing down the rotation for 1E8. They have 50 seconds left. They do have a rally coming into it, though. I'm not going to question the reigning Grand Prix champions, but maybe the healthy marches potentially could have stayed back for the desert altar just to guarantee that they get the first occupation.
Yeah, I would like to see either that, and again, we're the commentators. We don't have the Grand Prix championship or skin, but I probably would have liked to see the defense on the desert altar as well, or even hang those marches around to kind of pester the mid rotation for 1E8. So I think could have maybe gotten a little bit more value out of either one of those plays instead of deciding to zero them out entirely.
Well, at least their rotation will be first. With that decisive play, they will have first rotation. They also will be able to, you know, make 1E8 kind of have to walk back, take this walk of shame and rotate late here. But 1E8, you know, I think you would take that, even though, you know, you will have a late mid rotation. At least you denied the first occupation points on your own desert altar for 489, which would have been disastrous for them. As we start to see both teams start to accumulate and murder ball up in front of this mid, we see a kind of like a 489 march on the side here, hiding underneath the 6C GT season season 7 championship here. And we could go ahead and look at the structures here, and it's pretty much stable for both sides. Shrine of War, Desert Altar, Shrine of Life, all of these structures still being taken back. Still waiting for first occupation points, which is why you'll see the score balloon up for 489 before 1E8. But ultimately, with that opening, I feel like 1E8 was able to come back, and we'll have to see if it'll pay out for 489, because 489 kind of sacrificed their opening dominance with structures to, you know, commit for this first mid fight.
Which is interesting because you kind of want to play to your strength, right? This late, I feel like, and they have to know that they're one of the most dominant mid teams just based on their account development, you know, awakenings and armaments and stuff that we've been kind of touching on a little bit more and more. But still plenty of time here for everyone to gather. I think we're going to see a pretty nice large mid fight on this one, as there's an arrow tower getting set up too to try and get a little bit of a positional advantage.
We could see, you know, just clicking on the average marches here, a lot of the marches from 489, you know, having those iconics. Some of the marches in 1E8 being VIP 17. I would be really surprised if 1E8 come out with a mid fight win, especially with how decisive, by the way, Arrow Tower is here. The Arrow Tower Wars.
Oh, here we go, another one.
We have 2 Arrow Towers. I think 489's Murder Ball is actually outside of the Arrow Tower distance, so this Arrow Tower is just attacking the other Arrow Tower. Maybe, I think this is for chip damage. 1E8 using Stocked Up, by the way. Stocking Up, used by 1E8, so they will probably start bringing back some of these Provisioners. As this Murder Ball fight, look at the positioning of these Murder Balls. Bogdown used by 1E8, so they will be going in first against 489, but honestly, I think I'd be more comfortable at 489's position. Some of 1E8's marches in the back here, you know, falling asleep. We have 489 also using Heaven's Grace. 1E8 using To the Death, by the way.
Two matches in a row.
We were talking about last match when most people saved To the Death. 2 matches we casted so far, 2 of 2 using To the Death in the first arc here, meaning that 1E8 definitely want to make sure that there is only 2 arcs. They want to take this first arc so that they have control of how many arcs spawn. The reason why first arc is so valuable, even though it's the arc that's worth the least amount of points, 3k, but if you hold it, you could really determine how many arcs will spawn in the match. Let's go ahead and see the sad faces of 1E8. Seems like they're getting cleared off of this arc. We could see that arc is going to be spawning in about 15 seconds here. 10 seconds left until arc spawns, and I don't see an arc carrier for 1E8. They're getting destroyed by 489 right now.
It's a tough skill usage on that one. To the Death, you're kind of banking on all that damage, but bogged down with the defense debuff, and then also the Heaven's Grace to counter, which we usually see on To the Death. So kind of 2 skills there to counter the To the Death pull. I like the bold play. You have to kind of go out on something like that against a team like 489, but proper counters on the skill portion for 489 there on that mid fight and being extremely dominant.
That was a dominant win by 489, and this is the second To the Death usage we've seen in the first arc. That ended up in a loss. So, I don't know, man. This is going to be a tough pull. And 489 have control of this match. They have control of how many arcs could spawn. We've seen them in the opening that they could take 1E8's Murder Balls and they could take 1E8's structures. So what will 1E8 do? What is the pathway coming back into this game, Dirty Dan?
I would expect right now, so I from watching prior matches, and we all know that 1E8 is extremely good at provisioning. They usually open up with 2 provisioners. I would expect them to maybe increase that a little bit more. Maybe throw in an extra player, start provisioning. I've seen at times 1E8 going 14 provisioners at a time. So they're definitely going to.
Sorry, this arc carrier is going to the outpost.
Interesting play. Always a little risky.
They do have some marches here. It will be intercepted. They have full vision of this arc because of them capturing all the outposts. Do they have an outpost garrison, though? Do they have an outpost garrison? With how confident they are walking into this outpost, I believe they do. Yeah, they have a gen in there. But
Okay.
they do have 3 marches coming in. 489
Little
always does
pressure.
this, by the way. 489, they always bring their arcs to this outpost, which is crazy. We saw last season in the Grand Prix against 960 the craziness that happened with that last arc in the last game of that series, where 489 also brought the arc to this outpost. But I think they should be fine. They have
Trying
enough
to
marches.
Spice it up a little bit.
And if you go to this outpost, that means you're insta-capping. If you go to the outpost, you don't go to the
True.
obelisk, that means you're going to insta-cap it. And that they did. 8 minutes until the next arc spawns. They're able to capture it. In the meanwhile, they also took the desert altar. But they're able to capture the arc. They are now up by 3.3k.
Tough road back right now.
Oh, Sky Altar taken though, so they're trading. Although
Flipping
Sky
a
Altar
little
was
bit.
taken by 489, so this is looking 3 altars down to 1. One of the altars generating points. It's looking rough for 1E8, Dirty Dan.
Yeah, I think this is just I've touched on this a little bit before. I've been maybe meaning to try and bring it up, and maybe we can kind of divulge on it as the match continues on. But the awakening system, the armaments, it's now opening the gap for some of these that don't have big spenders, and it really leans to playing OL in favor of those super whale kingdoms and alliances. So something as an OL enthusiast, and I'm not the biggest player, that I would like to see maybe a slight rework to, just to make it a little bit more open for all players to potentially win this thing. But we've seen from time and time again from OL champions that it's usually in correlation to having a little bit higher of a spending level. So something I would like to see here changed, but you can see it here. It's right in front of your eyes that the account advantage that 489 has over 1E8, and I've seen some people in chat talking about it, is just so high and so difficult to overcome, regardless of how well you can play, But like we said in the last match, it's still not over. Maybe we get another sneaky tactics and master strategist for that second arc, similarly to what we got in the prior match. So
They only have one more skill
only
on the bar.
one skill. Yeah, that's
so
not gonna happen then.
They maybe have a master strategist. Sneaky tactics though.
Yeah,
I don't know if-
out of,
I don't know
out,
if they're
out of,
running
out of the
that.
picture now.
But yeah, Desert Altar retaken. Sky Altar attempting to be retaken, but 489 already generating points from the Sky Altar. They've done their damage that they needed to on the Sky Altar. As we
That's exactly what you don't want E8 to.
and yeah, this point differential is gonna continue growing, especially if they lose this next arc. What does 1E8 have to do to win mid?
Oh
question.
boy. I think you're gonna have to maybe use some of those resources you have to not be officially in your murder ball, and maybe have some players on the back line starting to chip away at those marches that are coming into the mid from 489. Maybe you assign a player or two to stick to one side, so that way you're not getting totally overwhelmed. But I would think that you have to piece down some of those 489 marches before they get to the middle, and just leave them at yellow or even red, and force them to make a decision if they want to continue going. But you got to weaken that presence in the middle a little bit, and I think that's probably the best position, the best way to do so.
Yeah, I mean,
Because you're not going to win in a head-to-head.
yeah. I mean, 489, they're Grand Prix winners. They're they're realm winners for a reason, right? They have the strategies, they also have the accounts, they have the leadership, and it's going to be tough for 1E8 to come back, but taking this Desert Altar is a good start. Just trying to chip away at these points. Now trying to take the Shrine of War. But like clockwork, 489, just know exactly when to refresh. And I think that's the biggest thing to learn from this game is that 489, like, they're like, all right, doesn't matter what we're doing, we're dropping everything, we're gonna swarm down the city, sad face, so that we could be here for this mid fight. And that's exactly what you have to do when you opt into insta-capping arcs. When you have that first arc, right, and you just insta-cap it, you have to be ready for the next one, because you essentially allowed those points to be out on the map, right? You could have held it, you could have done other things with that arc, but insta-capping it at an outpost means that you have to be completely ready for this second arc fight, which is going to be happening shortly. In 489, completely ready, murder balling up, just having so much presence in this mid fight, while 1E8 is still refreshing.
Yeah, this is where I would like to see again maybe some of those troops on that top side Desert Altar, which it looks like some of them are going to do. Go in, rotate up, start picking away at some of those 489 marches, because you got to do something to deter this mid fight here. Again, it was good skill counter from 489, but when you lose it to the death, murder ball, it's kind of tough.
Losing it to the death murder ball, potentially, 489 only showed 3 skills, so they have complete control of the skill. They have complete control of the structures. Not complete control, but they could kind of take control where they need to. And right now, they're choosing to rotate for this mid fight here. We have the 1EA murder ball just trying to stay on top of this Temple of Osiris, but honestly, this huge cluster of 489 marches is looking more and more threatening as the minutes progress.
Yeah, it's that number one, props to 489, that ball being so tight. Like you honestly can't tell how many troops are in there, but from what we've been seeing, there's definitely much more in that murder ball than what 1E8 has. Man, I don't know if 1E knows what's coming for them right now, as you're still seeing troops trickling in for 1E8 too.
Yeah, we see the siege march. We got the Margaret with the Cordoba. But yeah, we see the siege marches just in the middle here. And do you know the reasoning behind the one siege march for both of these teams and in these mid fights? Is it chip damage?
Everything that I've seen. So 60MX was actually the first team that I saw start using these arrow towers, and from what it looks like, it's definitely a positional thing. So yes, it's chip damage to an extent too. It's the decision of how much do I want to just sit here and take this chip damage, or am I going to move out of the AoE from the siege tower? So it's a little bit of both.
Ooh,
it's
to
a little
the death.
bit of trying to dictate. Here we go.
We had dust up used to the death. Yeesh. And for 1E8, the walk back call, saying we do not want the to the death smoke right now.
Yeah, that's not a bad call.
Kind of scattering a little bit here, just letting 489 just kind of go into their murder ball. But I don't know, it's I just feel like 489, even without skills, just if there was no skills in Ark of Osiris, they just have more marches. They have so many people here.
Yeah.
They it's so blue. This murder ball in this middle is just super blue in terms of the amount of marches. There's no crystal tech, but it feels like they all have 7 marches from what I'm seeing here. As the arc is pretty much going to be uncontested for 489, arc spawning. And I expect them to do the exact same thing, just insta-cap the arc, because they've been able to dominate these mid-fights pretty easily here. Although, we have a little contingent of marches here from 1E8 coming from the back. They just captured the Desert Altar, and now it looks like they will be trying to contest this Ark of Osiris carrier but it does look like 489. Are they? Do they know? They're walking through them currently. But yeah, it does look like they have a lot of people that are awake. They have a lot of people protecting this arc carrier, and they know that the one way 1E8 comes back is by capturing this arc and master strategying it out, perhaps, or doing some kind of shenanigans to steal it. They know that this arc is in their control, is in their hands, and it's up to 1E8 to try to steal it. So just making sure that they have enough marches here to defend this arc. As we start to see the arc carrier walk away with it, and they are also walking to the outpost, which is currently in 1E8's control. And they're like, okay, we'll walk to our obelisk. If they have the outpost, fine, we'll walk to the obelisk. As they walk out of that mid fight pretty unscathed with that arc.
Yeah, clean rotations now going on to the altars, whether it's defending or on the offense on this desert altar. With the rally coming in at the perfect time, textbook grand champion play right there.
As we see Eleanor coming out as a garrison here for this desert altar, she has to hold on. I mean, the thing is, they did capture the first arc, but the score is not that bad. It's 2.4k. Now we add that second arc, it's going to be at 6k differential. If they continue to hold these structures, it would be a good play, but unfortunately desert altar does fall. The desert altar that they had up here also falls. So yeah, it definitely does look like that they're trying to take things where 489 isn't. For example, they're all mid, so they want structures, but as soon as 489 comes back, it's just instant domination for them.
Yeah.
Sky altar under contention here, might be under threat, but there are a lot of 489 marches, and the thing about 489, never mind I caster cursed it, is that they could fill pretty well, but they weren't able to fill that structure. We got 1E8 with the Sky Altar at least, keeping it 2 altars to 2.
Other underrated thing about the VIP.
They also captured the arc, by the way.
Too.
Sorry, I just wanted to
Okay,
bring
there
that
we
up.
go. It's this the march speed bonus too, which is so huge. So
VIP 18.
even just having that little bit of march speed can really help, and some of the timing. And these are just so clean. They're just kind of going one after another after another.
And I will say, this is a mixture of great gear, but also just great strategies where
Yeah,
the rallies are
totally.
hitting at the same time with open field marches. As soon as... Well, let's look at the timer of when Arc's going to spawn and when they sad face here. There's like a moment where they're like, all right, we're sad facing now. And they all just run straight to the cities, start sad facing so that they can rotate mid. It's like clockwork for 489, which is, exactly what one of the best, if not the best, Arc of Osiris team in the world has.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to put too much emphasis on gear and whatnot. They're obviously extremely talented. That's what Grand Prix is, right? And I think that's what the community maybe wants to see a little bit more of, is just a little bit more of like player access to those accounts, where then it is truly just strategy. So these guys are extremely technically sound, but when it comes to just Osiris League, we are starting to gap wide in terms of who's going to be at the top a little bit more often, because the accounts are a little bit better. And that definitely helps some of these things, especially like murder balls, where it kind of keeps your troops a little bit more fresh, and you can kind of clear the field a little bit.
Yeah, 489 just able to take what they want when they want it, taking the desert altar yet again. You can see the occupation. They're pretty much even in occupation, the arc score being the big difference, and the provision score for 1E8 being the difference on their end. Creating this 5.4k differential so far that 489 was able to build for themselves. And as we said, 489, as soon as they see, okay, we have 6 minutes until arc spawns, just instantly going to these cities, stat facing. And you know what? Because of these cities, I'm sure that someone from 1E8 might get MVP just instantly just able to take out these marches, getting a lot of points. But MVP doesn't matter when you don't win the game here. In 1E8, definitely looking for an entrance, an avenue back into this game. And I think it has to come from stopping the instant captures of 489. What do you think, Dirty Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. Just slowing the match down a little bit to allow them to get on their own pacing, I should say. And I made the call in the beginning of the match to see how 489 does if they get punched in the mouth. Well, I think we see here with 1E8 on that end receiving a pretty big haymaker and just not being able to kind of get the timing under them a little bit. I think that's just with the pace that 489 is playing with, as you alluded to, cashing these arcs as soon as they get them, having a few moments to breathe, and then it's when he's all right, we gotta go back into the middle for another mid fight. So I think that's an amazing call, Plato. I think that 1E does have to, at the very least, slow down the rate at which arcs are being.
Yeah, slow down the rates indeed, as 4 minutes 30 seconds until arc spawns. They either have to all in for this arc or they have to somehow steal it. But the thing is, 489's defense of the arc is just as impressive as them taking that arc in the first place, right? Where they just always have enough marches around this arc of Osiris, and it hasn't really been contested. 1E8 murder balling up yet again in front of this Temple of Osiris, hoping for a different outcome than the first two mid fights. What's the play? Like, how do you improve from those first two mid fights?
Man, it's tough. I mentioned last match that there's definitely this little itch of like morale, right? As you're playing in these matches, I think for 1E8, you just got to keep your head up. You got to go in and just, work on a little bit, maybe on unifying your target selection, right? Clearing the field a little bit quicker, potentially, and to respond with the, impressiveness that 489 is, and just maybe really getting a little bit more precise on those call outs and taking one by one, try and clear the field a little bit more optimally. Other than that, I'm not sure what more else they can do. 489's been really good on skill countering too, so it's something that maybe it comes down to being a little bit more technical than the side.
I will say 489 have no provisioners. 1E8 have 5. If they get an arc, this game is right back for 1E8. And the thing is, these arcs are worth more because we've been insta-capping them 489. So 489, they have a clear path to win, but they also have a clear path to lose, which is to give up one of these arcs.
Yep.
Currently, the arc is worth 4k. So if 1E8 is able to take this arc, which is, a tall task, but they would be pretty much 2k behind or 1k behind 1E8, and 1E8 using sneaky tactics on this murder ball. One sneaky tactics, for those that don't know, make your marches invisible. They make it so that I'll make 30 of your marches invisible. This one's not invisible, by the way. They could see this one. But yeah, so it makes a couple of your marches invisible so they can't see, and it also increases attack when they start attacking. Usually used to sneak around, but it looks like 1E8 using it in an offensive capacity here, using also dust up here, in this murder ball. And 489 don't have full understanding of how many marches are here.
Yeah.
Because some of these marches are invisible. Now they're both going in, and 1E8 kind of have this surround on 489. Will they be able to win this mid fight?
He did get a pretty nice engage there off of this tactics, getting that little bit of that attack boost as well. So let's see.
489 also using Heaven's Grace, even though that is countered by Bogdown. I believe bogged down used by 1E8 as well. So 1E8 using a lot of skills for this mid fight. I feel like if there is a mid fight for them to win, it would be this one. We're starting to see some sad faces coming out for 1E8 though. A lot of sad faces on this bottom side here as we start to see the murder ball just continue. Look at the stream now coming out from 1E8. a couple, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 sad faces I've seen from 489, but 489 just being so dominant. You could see with the dot mode how many marches from 489 are around this temple versus 1E8. So again, it's just pure domination from 489. And if you're 1E8, like, what can you do in this situation? Because if they take this arc, it's gonna be so hard for 1E8 to come back, even as provisioning gods. Dirty Dan, what do you just dive this arc? Like, what's the plan here?
I think you have to. I think this is where you're probably going to see the Hail Mary attempt. What exactly that's going to look like. Go ahead.
The arc carrier is low, and they also took it from the wrong side of the arc. So that means 1E8 will have more time to run towards this arc, which I believe they will potentially do here. Just full send.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to. I mean, and again, the approach and how they do it. I mean, there's no skills on the board, so you're literally just sending everything you possibly can. But you kind of touched on that too. That's one thing that they can actually do is just slowing down the rate of capture, right? So maybe trying to prevent 2489 from this arc extremely quickly and still kind of become a little bit relevant.
Yeah, they could control the rate, but at this point, with the point differential, they're going to be down by 10k if this arc is captured.
True.
So I feel like they need to, just go all out for this arc, but it's looking rough for them. The shredder of 489 just hitting these marches. This is pretty much free points for 489 here. And, the marches, they're doing exactly what they need to, but at the same time, this outpost looks uncontested here. And this arc carrier at half health with a double C is speeding pretty much just as fast as the marches chasing it. So it looks like 489 will get this arc scot-free, and they will be able to secure that pretty much 10k advantage with the 4k they're about to gain with this capture. Although, okay, it's a bit delayed, it's a bit slower than initially thought, but even so, there are a ton of marches from 489 just able to defend this arc. And it looks like that last skill wasn't master strategies, but rather sneaky tactics from 489 from 1E8. So they don't have master strategies. All of their skills are revealed. Meanwhile, 489 still have 2 skills to use, so they still have 2 more skills in question marks here, as 489 able to capture the arc yet again, and now up by 10.3k. I don't think any amount of provisioning can come back from that deficit.
Yeah, that's a pretty tall task to ask, and again, when EA did play, I think as good as they could have played, but when you're running into a monster like 489, there's only so much you can do. So I mean, we did see a lot of good things from 1E8, but I think this thing might be a little bit out of reach.
Yeah, we see 1E8. They are filling this desert altar, so there is. Oh, the garrison pop though, and they have the thing. As soon as I'm like, they are filling this thing, the garrison pops. Cursed. They got the Huakiving. I apologize 1E8 for that caster curse, but it's looking rough. Versing 489, one of the best teams in Arco Osiris, and honestly, they're keeping it pretty even in terms of structures, but it's just the mid fights that are just consistently going 489's favor, and that is 489's strategy this game is, let's get 10.5k points off arc and then slowly win in terms of occupation, and that should prove to be the difference even against provisioners. And the thing is, 1E8 have been winning their games by the skin of their teeth, by provisioning. Well, you know, the games in group stages when they were in KVK. But if you're down by this much, the provisioning won't matter as much because, you know, I think that's part of the plan for 489 is that they know that with more arcs, right? If we think about the economy of points in Arc of Osiris, with more arcs means that all the other points are worth less overall. Yeah. Right? Because there's a certain amount of points that you can get from provisioning. There's a certain amount of points that you can get from structures. But if that gets diluted by the amount of arcs there are, then that means provisioning is worth less. That means capturing structures is worth less. Because overall, it's less of a percentage because of the amount of arcs that have been spawned. So I think that's the play for 489 is we're going to counter them by not provisioning ourselves, but by dominating mid, capturing all the arcs, and making sure that there's so many points in this game that the provisions won't matter.
Yeah, it's a brilliant approach, honestly, too. And it's, you know, simple-minded me is like, oh, well, you know, they should be going and chasing after, you know, the provisioners for 1E8. But, you know, like we said before, we're just commentators. But it's a really good approach from 489. And it's, like you said, kind of diluting the point value there and just saying, we're just going to score as arcs on you humanly possible. So that way your little provisioning strategy doesn't work.
And like clockwork, 5 minutes, they're already murder balling up for this next mid fight. It's like it's the same thing every single time. The difference is 1E8 not murder balling up in mid. Looks like they're murder balling up by in front of the desert altar as well as in front of their own desert altar, in front of the sky altar. So they might be trying to retort with a building focused approach here.
Too little too late, potentially.
I do like this because if you keep getting smashed mid, you got to do something different, right? You gotta
you
have to do something else. And especially with the amount of resources that 489 is allocating towards this mid fight, and they have allocated throughout this match, they're like, okay, they're probably gonna do the exact same thing, which they are. Let's just they're not going for the structures. Are they gonna go for the steel?
Wow.
What is this sneaky beaky murder ball from 1E8 gonna do? Do they have vision of this? They do not. No vision of this murder ball in this little cone right here. Oh, there you go. They are going for the desert. Okay. It was just a little ruse, a little sneaky sneakers from 1E8, but they are eventually going to go for this desert altar. They do have a murder ball in front of this desert altar. I don't know how 489 have so many marches. Look how many marches they have here, and they also have a bunch of marches by the desert altar. They're actually reallocating marches from mid to the desert altar, making sure that they have control of that. They probably know or think that there's not going to be a mid fight, but there are some 1E8 marches coming mid, so you don't want to allocate too many marches there. A little bit of a distraction from 1E8. And I think this really shows the meta, the macro of Arc of Osiris, where you have to allocate marches somewhere. There's a bunch of people going to the desert altar, and now they're reacting to the desert altar. And the murder ball for 489 is not looking as threatening as it was earlier.
Yeah, that's what you probably hear in those voice comms. You know, you usually split into about 4 teams, so you probably hear, hey, you know, you and you from team C go and help on this defense. And that's probably what you got there, as you didn't see the entire ball moving away, but you saw about 10 marches. So there was probably about 2 players there on one specific team that got the call to go and help on that desert altar. I'd be really curious to see what this match would look like in three match series, because as you said before, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. I really like the adjustment here from 1E8 to say, hey, let's go and pick on the structures and weaken that mid presence a little bit. So I would really love to see where this match would ultimately end up if it was a 3-match round with the adjustment that 1E8 could potentially.
I mean, 1E8 taking 4 altars, although they are getting cleared off mid. Doing something different, as we said. A 3-match series would be pretty interesting, but 489 just showing their dominance, even with the people that rotated out. They're like, hey, by the way, we were just murder balled super tightly. We still had people. We had more than one EA at least, and they are just going through these marches. One EA looks like, their murder ball is just getting sad faced by 489 here. And yeah, 489 just having some fun around with these 1EA marches. Although 1EA is coming from behind, perhaps going a bit too far for the 1EA murder ball 489 is, as Arc is going to spawn in 1 minute 15 seconds. They have a handful of marches for 1EA, although they are pretty low. I don't know, man. It's 489 essentially, I feel like, is kind of playing with their food a little bit, where they're chasing the kills here, but then they're just gonna come back and take care of the murder ball from behind. They still have 55 seconds until this arc spawns, so they're really, really comfortable with the spot they're at right now, for sure. As I believe they took back. Oh no, they're in the midst of taking back the desert altar that they walked back for.
Yeah, definitely a good adjustment there on 1E8. Steal some points away from that occupation game. But again, yeah, it's just going to be too little too late. Going back to that 3-match real quick, I would really like to see it, because you now know as 1E8, right, they're going to come and they're going to punch you in the middle. So maybe they do take an approach like JST did last week, where they're going to go down 4 arcs, but they're going to be so dominant in the structure game, and then that'll really kind of pump a little bit of life into that provisioning game that they do so well. But you don't know going into the match that 489 is just going to want to run up the score on you on arc. So you go into that first arc, run it to the death, try and take that advantage away from them right off the bat. You lose that, go in again, lose the second arc. So of course that's not the scenario, but I think 1E8 3-match setup against would definitely definitely make a little bit of noise, sure, because I really like this on the fly adjustment, especially being down as much as they were, and just saying, hey, keep your heads up, we're going to adjust to this, and we're going to end this thing strong.
Yeah, it's people have been looking down on them last season. Pretty much every single match they played was they were the underdogs. This season, just facing against the colossal giants that 489 is, they're versing one of the best teams. Oh, by the way, they got a pull, but I think that's the first time they touched the arc in this game. But
there you go.
They versing against like one of the best teams, if not the best team in Arc of Osiris, is tough. But they've definitely shown that they are one of the best teams in Anubis and potentially in Arc. But unfortunately, they will not be able to make it. Well, we have 10 minutes left. They probably will not be able to make it to the finals here, meaning that they probably won't be able to make it into the grand finals, which is the winners of all of the realms, and then of course Grand Prix, which is the winner, which is the all of the realms alongside the Chinese winners as well. So I would be really interested to see 1E8 in a situation like you said, with accounts that are like dev accounts. I think that'd be a really, really interesting matchup. But right now, just getting dominated by 489 in terms of 489's strength with their accounts, but also with their rotations and
the timings have
dominance. The timings
been so beautiful to watch, and again, everyone acting in unison too. Like this is like and this is something, it's obvious to say, but this is, you don't just get this, chat. Like this is from practicing over and over and over and over again. And we kind of touched on it before the match started. Like they haven't had much competition, but you could still that they're so still refined because of how much they do put in on the off practice these. So I'm really advocating for that. Lilith, please throw 1E8 to Brand for the. Let's see what they got.
There you go. We got Dirty Dan, the biggest 1E8 fan in Rise of Kingdoms, advocating for 1E8s.
Yes.
489. I mean, before last season, before last season they weren't seen as the best team in Ark of Osiris, but then they ended up beating
Yeah.
60GT in that Grand Prix, which kind of cemented their legacy there. A lot of people expecting 60GT just to steamroll through them. Well, not really steamroll, but like get a victory, because 60GT did beat 93T, which last season was seen as a favorite in that Grand Prix rather, because in the Grand Finals they won that. So I think having more of these high level teams just fight each other is so intriguing, and it'll be really interesting to see how far 489 will be able to make it in this Osiris League in general, because the match that in the other side of the bracket is 60GT versus GV77.
Yeah.
And the winner of that match is going to be super, super tough for 489 to deal with. Imagine this, Dirty Dan. The Grand Prix Finals, which is the best of the best teams in the world, both of the finalists are in the same Ark of Osiris League realm. Like, that is crazy. The fact that 60GT and 489 are in the same realm, although 2377 and GV77 are still racing 60GT. Not too sure how that match is going, but this shows the competition in Anubis and competition in Osiris League in general. A lot of these teams just proving to be really, really strong contenders.
Yeah, it's to the point for last week where it was Wib getting a breath of fresh air and getting out of that realm and going to actually have an opportunity, and we saw it pay off last week with the win against JST. But yeah, this realm is absolutely stacked. I'm looking at the score right now, Plato. It looks like we are probably going to get a rematch of 60GT versus 489. So 60GT is winning in that match right now currently.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be if that's the match. By the way, finals is not gonna be a best of one. It's gonna be best of three. Mm-hmm. So it will be a 3-game series against 489 and 60GT. That is going to be one to watch. Definitely going to have to, strap in and get ready for that series, because that's going to be a barn burner. As we have 5 minutes left of this game. 489 just, continuing their dominance here. 1E8, super respectable in terms of their attempts here. I like the to the death in the beginning. I think the 1E8 knew that 489 was just going to continuously capture these arcs, but unfortunately they just couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like they tried to go straight up, they tried to win via the skills in that first arc fight, but they just got decimated by the power of 489 in that situation, by the micro as well, with how they target the marches, but just the overall power difference between these two teams. But super respectable by 1E8, and I'd be curious to see how the provisioners do in this match. I'm guessing they're still provisioning out and about, but by them being down by what is this differential? 14K.
Really out of reach. I mean, you'd have to see provisionings for the ages to to make that one up.
14K difference in provisioning, insane. But yeah, it's looking really, really good here.
And I think you gotta hold your head up high a little bit if you're 1E8 too. Like, look, you came in, you represented, had a few pretty nice upsets. You got your Osiris League in. Came a little bit short. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to go on and win. But I gotta say, and someone who doesn't like consolation prizes, I think there's a that does deserve it. It's
a top 4, and I would say the hardest realm in Osiris League is super commendable. I just wanted to check the scores on the other games. It looks like 93T is up by 3K against 1188, and Wib is actually losing by 9K against 16OT. So it looks like Wib will lose that game there. As we wrap up in this if we wrap up in the Osiris League semifinals here. I think these finals are going to be pretty interesting to watch. Like between 489 and 960 or 60 GT, like who do you think would win that matchup?
I think 960's got a lot riding on this Osiris League after kind of, you know, they're restructuring. They have key players leave 960. We have a pretty big KVK coming up that's lining up for those guys. So they're kind of in a redemption mode a little bit right now, I feel like. I think that they definitely have some stuff to prove, and I think they want to get back to that mountaintop. So I think we'll see a lot of aggression from 960 as they want to kind of prove that they are still here. They are still, you know, that top dog on the block.
Yes, sir. So you're saying 960s or 60 is going to take the win against 489 in the finals?
I will go and say that, yes, only and purely because 489 had knocked us out of the playoffs like two seasons ago.
So it's out of spite. It's like
yeah.
It's out of spite.
Yes, yeah. Definitely out of spite. I would like to see 960 to take home that dub.
That would be, and that's going to be next week, I believe, is going to be the final. So be sure to subscribe to the official Rise channel right here for those matches. We're definitely going to be watching those as we get into the final minutes of this Arc of Osiris game. And I definitely think like 489's practice, it was literally like clockwork when we saw them play. Like, what's the takeaways that people could take from this game if they want to learn for their Arc teams at home?
I mean, definitely the biggest thing is practice, and with your practice comes advancing deeper into runs, right? So you're never gonna learn anything from playing in, those initial rounds. Getting through group stage of playoffs, like you're not really going to be facing a lot of top tier talent. So the more you practice, the more you're going to be playing better teams. And the more things will kind of start to come together for you. One thing that I will note for Kingdoms who are trying to be Osiris focused, definitely helps have another Osiris League team in the same in your realm. So 489 is able to practice with 89, who's another really good Osiris League team. See the benefits that 1093 can have out of it. 2377 has multiple teams, 1188 multiple teams. So it does kind of stink a little bit because you kind of usually get put on the same side of the bracket. But when you have multiple teams that you can practice against, legit practice matches, not versus 15, you're going to see huge payoffs when it comes to what you can do as an Osiris team. It's all about practice, and obviously it starts from the top too. So you have to have good people who are initiating practices, good people who are holding those accountable to wanting to practice, and if they don't show up for practice, then you're not going to make it. So it always starts with the top, always starts with the leadership. So make sure you're also looking for a good OL leadership.
We're starting to see the 1E8 gatherers gather up here. I'm seeing how many points once these siege marches get into the city here.
Provisions for the ages.
Oh wow, that was 3K.
Whoa.
That was 3.9. And then they still have one march. I'm pretty sure this is their dedicated provisioner. They have 3 marches consistently provisioning at all times, using stock up here. And they got 5.3 from provisions, making it a 10k differential. 5.3 is absolutely wild for provisions. They still have another provisioner too. I think it is 5.3. 5.3 provisions. Absolutely crazy by 1E8. But ultimately the provisions were not the difference. The mid fights were the difference. So GG's to both teams. We see 1E8 Supa with 232k individual score, but you could see the differential was the mid fights here, was the Arc of Osiris scores, 15k Arc of Osiris score. The 5.3k provisions was not enough from 1E8, but valiant effort, pretty much even in occupation, impressively enough. So Dirty Dan, do you have any final notes for this match?
Buckle up for this match. I would say just huge shout out to 188. I mean, look, again, you kind of saw it with occupation scores. It really came down to those mid fights, and with just the account development, a little bit more advantageous for 489. Just not quite able to hold on. But also not taking away anything. 489 so sound. So chat, everyone buckle up because we're getting the rematch probably of the ages with 60 GT, I believe, in 89 going into these finals for the realm of Osiris.
Be sure to subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdom channel right here for that series and for the other final series. And be sure to subscribe to Dirty Dan and I's channels also in the description down below. We'll catch you guys later.